Well, folks, at this stage of the afternoon, the risk of repetition is very high, so I am going to be very brief. I've identified 8 broad take-home messages, and I just want to read these out. I think, and I won't identify who provided them, you all know. We know that there's a paradigm shift taking place in mobility, and that's the context in which this is happening, and that's the context that we need to use. It's also been said that it isn't going to happen by itself. I think Chelsea said that, and I think we know that that is the case as well. There is a role for government incentives. The government's approach and policy settings and the kinds of incentives that they're prepared to provide are fundamental, and we've heard case studies from various countries which underline the fact. The question is, how far down that track is this country? How much more needs to be added? And that's a conversation that has to be had. We need to establish, and fairly quickly, a consistent and coherent national approach to charging infrastructure. It's got to be instantly identifiable. That last conversation was very interesting in that respect. Somebody driving around this country has got to know and identify by colour or by brand or by whatever that that's a charging station. And you'll have the app to find it and know where it is anyway. The fifth one is we've got to shift the thinking of consumers. And there are a number of really very impressive contributions here. I hadn't realised that it was as stark as that. We have to actually take to consumers the experience. Yes, it's ice cream. And yes, you can probably sell it more as ice cream than spinach. I happen to like spinach, but I get the point. And I think everybody gets the point. We've also got to transform our bus fleets, and one of the reasons why we began to think that this was a good idea to have a meeting like this was our dilemma in this region, and I know that dilemma is replicated elsewhere in this country, where we are stuck with large fleets of elderly diesel buses, and there is a huge public reaction building up to those, and we need to move beyond that. The question that rings in my head is, and we've been talking about hybrids in this region as a transitional technology, maybe we don't need to. That question hangs in the air. There are economies of scale. Clearly there are economies of scale here which have got to be utilised. This is a small country. We all know how difficult it is to get stuff in volume. The MB approach to procurement is one that needs to be followed up really vigorously. It is perhaps the biggest opportunity of all here for bulk buying. And finally, and probably the most important in my mind, is there needs to be a more joined-up national conversation. This is one of a variety of conversations that have taken place. It's been a terrific exchange of information. For me, I think the Minister said at the beginning of this, when he spoke, he said he was a layman and this kind of discussion was above his salary scale. I think he said, well, it's certainly above mine as well, but we're getting there. So I just wanted to say thank you to all of the presenters. This has been superb. I mean, it's been riveting from start to finish, and I know the conversation around the buzz is that, yes, this is well worth having and doing. The question is, what do we do next? Do we do this again next year? I would be perfectly happy with Wellington City to host another one. It's up to you. So we welcome your feedback on that. I haven't talked to any of the staff about this yet, but we will prepare a summary if that's judged to be useful. And I see them all putting up their hands to volunteer for that. If you think it's useful, then we will prepare a broad summary for all the participants, something that can be used to interest other people in this. As the Minister said, everyone with skin in the game needs to be joined up in this exercise from here on. So thank you all for coming, and thank you for your contributions. Now, I have one final thing that I want to do, and I want to thank Catherine, who has with her usual skill and aplomb and knowledge of just about everything, guided our discussion today very well indeed. And we want to give her, she did express interest in a Paxter. We don't have a Paxter, but we've got something almost as good.
Just take the teas level. Thank you, Chris. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.